All right, and welcome back to Saturday Night Chit Chat. And wow, Joey is my first guest here. That almost every guest I always kind of end with, well, hopefully I'll see you in person soon. Hopefully I'll see you in person, because this show started in the middle or the beginning of the pandemic. And we're actually doing this backwards, because I actually saw and played with Joey a few weeks ago, and now I'm watching him virtually. So so we're kind of doing a little bit of a Twilight Zone action. So everybody here at Saturday Night Chit Chat with FreekBass, please welcome the amazing Mr. Joey Porter from the Motet. How you doing, Joey?
Great. Thank you very much.
Man, I'm so glad to have you here. And right before we jumped on, I was like, there's such an orange vibe happening, and you got to tell me, how in the heck did you get an orange Rhodes? Let's start there.
Man, well, I just rattle canned the top of this, but I called the Orange Amp Company, and I guess it was 1998, and I just ordered their Tolex from them. I don't know if you can even do that anymore, but I just ordered a bunch of Tolex from them and re-Tolexed my whole Rhodes.
Okay, so for us, what is Tolex? Tell me what I don't even know what Tolex is. I'm not sure.
Tolex is the stuff that's on the outside of like amplifiers, like a Fender amplifier.
Oh, nice.
Or most amplifiers, and it covers a Rhodes, the outside of a Rhodes.
Right.
I don't know what it's made of, some kind of plastic, I guess.
Right. And then so it's almost like a skin, skin would be if you're putting it on something, that same kind of concept.
On a Fender amp, it's black,
Right.
It's that stuff, because that's just covering wood.
Right. Okay.
That's Tolex.
Got it.
So Orange Amp has they make orange Tolex. So I just ordered their stuff, glued it on.
Oh, that's amazing, man. It's I was with a few years back. I was work with this company called Custom with a K, and they had the big the plush stuff, like
right,
old amusement, the amusement park ride stuff, like.
Yes, and sometimes it was sparkly.
Right, exactly. Yes. Yeah. I thought it would be always look cool if the whole the whole band, all the amps and everything had that, the whole stage was covered with that. Would look really dope, I bet.
It seems like when everything's soft like that, it's pretty safe. You can fall down, nobody gets hurt.
And there's that too as well. Yeah, exactly. Well, let's we're gonna jump around the timeline a little bit. I'm sure a lot of our viewers know, a lot of your stories. Some might not know, but I know you live in Colorado now, but you're originally from Nashville, Tennessee. Is that correct?
That's right. I was born and raised in Nashville.
Wow. And how was that like being in a music city? Without stating the obvious, I mean, that must have been just pretty amazing, right? As a kid growing up.
Well, it was interesting, because it's sort of a singer-songwriter kind of city,
right?
Which really is in my bag, but I can appreciate that. But it's definitely, it's called Music City, and I grew up knowing that you could have the aspirations of being a professional musician if you wanted to. That was an honest living that you could do,
Right.
So I think that doesn't happen if you're from maybe a smaller town.
Right, for sure. Now, was any of your folks musical as well?
My dad played guitar, and my mom played piano.
Oh,
my dad was a Southern Baptist minister, and he played guitar and bass. It's sort of like a trio kind of group.
Yeah.
My mom played piano, and she was a dance teacher.
Okay.
So I think that's where I started to learn about funk music, was just listening to her records, because I was a kid of the 70s and 80s, and that's when funk was.
Right.
And so she was buying those just for her dance studio, and then I benefited from listening to that stuff.
That's amazing. And then obviously, I'm sure you were getting the piano lessons and all that kind of stuff when you were a little kid. How young were you when you started playing piano?
Well, I was really lucky. There was always a piano at my house because my mom played, so I just always played. Right. I took piano lessons for about 1 year when I was 9 years old.
Oh, that's it.
I just
okay.
didn't like practicing. I didn't like having the teacher, and the structure of it was too much for me. I just wanted to do my thing.
Right.
I didn't take music that seriously as a kid because it was just around. My brother had a drum kit. My dad had a guitar. So I played all the instruments a little bit, but it was just for fun. I didn't think it was going to amount to anything.
Yeah. And then, so zap forward a few years, junior high school, you started kind of doing the band thing, I'm assuming, at that point, and
by high school. Yeah, I think junior in high school, I had a band. I was playing guitar, and I was the lead singer. So I guess that's 1988.
And you were playing guitar in that band too?
Playing guitar, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, got it.
I still play guitar now all the time.
Self-taught, or did you take lessons on that at all?
Self-taught, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Well, actually, that's not true. In college, for a year, I took like jazz guitar lessons.
Oh, nice.
You know, where I learned all the scales and stuff like that. So that helped me.
Sure.
But yeah, we played sort of like, you know, I wasn't really like, I was really influenced by funk music at that point, but none of my friends were really into it.
Yeah.
And so the music that my band was playing was more like college radio. You know, like in 1988, it was all about like REM and like.
Right.
I'm from Nashville, so it was like, you know, Athens and Atlanta were like where the bands were coming from. Plus, you know, that REM music is like jingle jangle rock stuff, kind of like cowboy chords, you know, G, C, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So the fact that it was easy to learn how to play, I think that's why we liked it, you know. We kind of liked a little bit of like punk rock a little bit too, or like Dinosaur Jr. we were really into.
Were you doing like covers or originals, or a combination of both at that point?
A combination.
Okay, got it. So you're starting to write songs in, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but they sounded like REM mixed with Dinosaur Jr.
Right. I got it.
If you can imagine what that sounds like.
And then, so you're doing the guitar jangle thing. Like, so when did you kind of like start segging back into keyboard / synth world? Like, how did you jump back into that world, especially in terms of like, you know, doing it in a band type situation, you know?
That happened in college because my taste started to really change. Like, I grew up really benefiting from this great radio station called 92Q in Nashville. It was basically the black radio station.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned everything, you know, besides my mom's records.
Right.
Which she didn't even know she was like, had the dopest records. She just was like, oh, this is for work. You know, she had no idea.
Right.
This Gap band, you know, like Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, and cool stuff.
Yeah.
But my taste really started to change. I really started to learn about music. Now this is before the internet. So me and my friends would like get high and we would go to the library, and there were these listening stations. You could go and check out records and put on headphones and listen to the records. Yeah. That was the only way you were ever going to know about anything. You know, there's no Spotify or anything. And so I would just go through, and there was like a little category. I remember it was like a subgenre of R&B, you know, there was like soul, but then there was this little thing called funk. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And then I realized that was James Brown and stuff.
Right.
There must be more. And all of a sudden I was learning about Cameo and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
From going to library.
Wow. How about that?
Random.
And then did you start, you know, kind of like learning those, you know, a lot of those licks and stuff like that, I'm assuming then too as well?
I did, because I started to want to play more stuff like that. And most funk music, I'd say the majority of it has at least one keyboard player in it, you know?
Right, for sure.
Sometimes maybe even no guitar.
Right.
And so I realized I needed to switch. Then I was also in this band. As I was getting more leaning into funk music, I was in a band that kind of played sort of Little Feat stuff. Again, I'm from Nashville, so there's always this sort of southern swampy thing going on.
Sure.
But then, yeah, you know, we were getting a Little Feat. That's sort of like almost if like a jam band was trying to be funky. That's
right. Let's say they're pretty funky. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, like, but they have like elements of like, New Orleans rhythms and stuff like that.
Right.
We were trying to do that, and then there was another guy who came into our little fold, and he played guitar too. And we couldn't have three guitar players in the band. And basically, they were like, "Man, we know you can play keys. Either you play keys or like you're out."
Oh.
So I started to play keys just to like keep my gig. Right. Which I didn't have, you know, we've only played like a few, you know, we were under 21. Right. We could play some clubs in Nashville at the time. But we had
so you're still at this point, you're still in Tennessee, right? You haven't moved to Colorado yet. Okay.
So then I bought a Fender Rhodes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think for $200 at the time, you know, they're like $4,000 now, you know?
Yeah.
And like, just traveled around with that, some crappy PV amp, and played this sort of Little Feat wannabe music with my buddies. And that was my first real band. You know, I don't include my high school band because we never really played any clubs.
Sure.
You know.
Right. But you're doing even a little bit of touring at that point, right? Around the kind of, you know, regionally, I'm assuming?
Just Nashville.
Yeah. Oh, just Nashville. No. Okay, got it. I'm sure there's plenty of places to play there too when you first start playing out. Yeah.
There was.
Yeah.
But then when I turned 21, I moved to Portland, Oregon.
Oh, wow. Was that
and I was there for 10 years.
And was that because of a college thing, or what was?
You know, I just like, it's just sort of like, always had the feeling that where I was from, I didn't belong or something. Like I was from the wrong place, and I just wanted to go as far away from where I was as possible.
Right,
I had
right.
never even been to Oregon, but I had a friend who told me he went there and he liked it, and I was like, sold. You know, I looked it up on like an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Again, this is before the internet. And they're like, look, if you live in Portland, you're an hour and a half from the coast, you're an hour from the mountains, and like all this other stuff is, you know, I'm like, done, sold. I'm moving
Just
there.
sight unseen too, right? Did you like just
That's right.
just went for it, huh?
Yep. I had like $1,800 and a minivan, that Fender Rhodes, and some clothes, and like a tent, like real hippie style.
Wow. That's amazing,
Moved
man.
all the way across the country. Yeah.
Like nomad land vibe. Yeah, that's great.
Definitely.
And
I
then
mean, when you're 21, you know, you really feel like nothing can hurt you.
sure, of course.
Like, I would never
right.
do that now. That would be way too much.
Right. Wow. And then was it, you know, did it meet expectations when you got there, you know?
It did. You know, I
Yeah.
loved it. It was completely different from Nashville.
Yeah.
It wasn't conservative. You know, there's a lot of sort of alternative lifestyle vibe, you know, going on. And, you know, Nashville wasn't like that at the time. It is a little bit now.
Right.
It wasn't like that. And that's sort of where I felt like I fit in.
Yeah.
Somewhere that was different than where I was from. And I loved it in Oregon right away, you know.
And then did you get in then a band there pretty, you know, soon, and then start kind of gigging in that market then too?
Well, within about a year, I had to sort of learn how to play the keyboards. I sat at home. I bought this book called The Jazz Piano Book by Levine. And it basically just gives you ways to like interpret music and how the chords work and stuff. And I just read the book, sat at home and practiced. I sold weed, and that's how I paid my rent.
Yep.
And like, and just practiced Rhodes from the time I was 21 until I got enough money to buy an old Sonic keyboard, which had it's basically like a workstation, you would call it now. You can program drum beats and bass lines and stuff in there. And when I got that, I could practice all my jazz stuff. I could play like 2-5-1s, different chord progressions, whatever, and have it loop over and over again, and I could practice over it.
Yeah.
And that's when I really started to get better. But this is all before I was really in a band. I just, at that point, was starting to play at blues jams and stuff. I figured blues jams would be the easiest way to get in. You know what the song is. Yeah. You know, that was really where I sort of cut my teeth. And then once people started to know, like, my style was more funky, I really didn't fit into the blues thing.
Right.
A local funk band called Rubberneck picked me up, and I started playing with them. And then we traveled the whole country. That was my first time.
Oh,
traveling.
wow.
I guess that was 95.
Wow, that's cool. And then was that like similar, like, well, tell me, what was the instrumentation like in that band? You know, what was
Big
the
band.
setup? Yeah.
3 horns, guitar, bass, drums, and keys.
Oh, wow. Vocals too as well?
Yeah, the guitar player sang, and we all sang background vocals. And that's when I first started doing talk box.
Yeah, and that was going to be definitely one of my questions. Was it just like from hearing it on records for so long, like Zap and stuff like that, you're like, hey, I got to figure out what this thing is and how to make it work, kind of thing?
Absolutely. I got to tell you, like, you know, besides listening to the radio and just checking out my mom's records, the other place that I would hear cool music was at the roller skating rink.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, single digits, and like before high school.
Sure.
Before it wasn't cool to go to the rink anymore.
Right.
I'm right around 1983. I'm like 11 years old. I'm skating around, and all of a sudden I hear Zapp and Roger. I don't know what it is, but I just hear that crazy, what I think sounds like a computer voice or a robot or something. And I'm just like, this is so great. I don't know why I like this, but I like this so much. And I turned to my brother, who's a couple years older than me. I'm like, you know, he usually knew stuff. I was like, do you know what this is? He's like, I don't even know. So back then, you know, we had to have a DJ at the roller skating rink. You couldn't just play the music automatically. So I ran over to this kid with acne, whatever. I'm like, hey man, what is this? And he looks over, he's like, oh, it's called Zapp and Roger. This song's called More Bounce to the Ounce. And I'm like, holy cow. I remember my mom picked me up, and I couldn't wait to be like, mom, I gotta have this record. I gotta have this Zapp Rock, you know, and Roger record. She's like, I don't know what that is. I'm like, look, you're gonna like it. It took, you know, I feel like the next time I went to the music store with her, I was being a bad little kid and she didn't buy me anything. I think it was 2 times before she finally bought it for me. Then I took it home and I wore it out.
That's incredible.
But I wasn't like, you know, I want to do this, or I wasn't even like, how do they do this? I just liked it. I
Right.
didn't even think about how they made it or anything. I just knew I liked it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to listen to it over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. The Talkbox thing, it's, first off, the way that it stood the test of time, and how it's, almost like you're talking about guitar or bass or keyboards. I mean, it's almost, I mean, I guess you could say it is. It's like its own instrument, I mean, it's like this magical, for me, it's like this. So for someone that really knows how to do it, whether it be, like the Zaps or something, maybe more like what you do now, or like say Chromeo or whatever, like the way it's used, if it's used in a correct way and you really know how to use it, it's just such an amazing thing. It really is,
Well, I love it because, I really wish I could sing, soulfully, you know what I mean? And like you kind of work your instrument.
Yeah.
I can only do what I can. I know what I could do, you know what I mean? And I do that through the talk box.
Right.
I think, what would Marvin sing? What would Aretha sing right now? What would Stevie sing? Or Donnie Hathaway, or whatever. And I'd like try to channel them, and then in perfect pitch and with an amazing vibrato, because it's all synthesizer, and I don't have to worry about it.
Right. That's great. That's great. That's great. So, all right. So you're touring around with this group, and then let's jump ahead a little bit. Like, so was anybody in that group in the Motet, or was there any affiliation there, or was it a total separate thing? And you're like, okay, this was cool. I had my run. I'm gonna now book down to Colorado and see where that takes me. Like, how'd that story happen?
Through traveling, I think I met the Motet. I think I even met them at High Sierra Music Festival.
So they were already gigging, like they were already a band before you got in it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
I first kind of thought about, I never even thought about moving to Colorado, but through traveling with Rubberneck in the 90s, I went to Colorado a couple of times, and every time I would go through Boulder, especially because Denver wasn't really that cool in the 90s. It was Boulder that was cool. It's like, I could live here.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of the other way. Boulder's kind of whack. Denver's the cool spot.
Right.
But I was always like, man, I would love to move here, And, eventually those guys got my number, the Motet guys, Dave Watts in particular, got my number through some friends. And he called me and was like, hey, I know you live in Portland, but do you want to move to, I guess this is 99, do you want to move to Boulder and join my band? And I'm like, I had just started my own band called Porterhouse, which did like funk instrumental stuff, kind of like in a Herbie way with some talk box.
Right.
But just drums, bass, sax, and keyboards.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just started my own band, man. I can't just move to be in some like band. And they were doing more like a world beat kind of thing then.
Right.
Porter wasn't really what I was interested in.
Yeah.
So my band Porterhouse ended up opening up for them up in the Northwest, in Portland and in Seattle. And then we ended up opening for them somewhere in Colorado. So I got to know these guys. And eventually I was like, okay, maybe I will move to Colorado.
Yeah.
But I didn't move to Colorado to be in their band, because when I moved to Colorado, there was still 2 or 3 years before I joined the band. They had a guy.
Oh, okay. Got it.
It was only because he decided to leave that I joined the band.
Oh, got it. That's wild, man. Life. I
just love Colorado. I still love it. I can't imagine living anywhere else. I absolutely love it. So, I moved here because I like it.
Did you move initially to? Well, I'm not even sure now. Do you live in Denver or Boulder? You live in Denver now?
I live in between Denver and Boulder in a town called Lafayette.
Okay, got it. And when you first moved there, was it more Boulder is where you moved? Or
I lived in Boulder for 6 months, just at a buddy's place who had a separate apartment.
Okay. Just
until I bought the house in Lafayette.
Got it.
I've been at the same house ever since then. Since I guess that's 2005.
Oh, okay. Wow. And once you hooked up with the Motet, I'm assuming they were already like hitting the road pretty hard even before you were in the band, right? And so you just kind of jumped on that train and just kind of rode with it then at that point?
Definitely. Like the year or two before I joined the band, they had played Bonnaroo and done some pretty cool gigs. Yeah. Again, doing sort of an Afrobeat vibe, and some other kind of world beat stuff.
Well, then how did it, like, I mean, I know that I hear of some of that in the Motet's music, but I mean, Was it you joining the band that pulled it more into the funk side of the stuff, or was it just kind of a collective thing coincidentally? How did that transition kind of happen?
A little bit of both,
Yeah.
A couple of the guys who were in the band, Dave and the old singer Jans, were really into some funk music too.
Yeah.
They were doing some funky stuff, but they were doing mostly Afrobeat stuff at that point.
Yeah.
But, they were really interested in funk music, and they were, when I started to play with them, I was like, well, look, this is kind of my bag and I know about this, and they were like, whoa, we love that too. Jans at the time, the guy who used to be in the band, he had an amazing funk record collection,
Yeah.
knew about soul singers and stuff, so he was very, between him and Dave, they did know about some funk stuff. They just really, for some reason, weren't doing it.
Yeah.
So all they needed was a little friendly nudge from me, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we love this,"
Right.
But they were already doing it. It's not like I taught them what they
Sure.
about funk or anything,
Right.
I taught them some stuff, but they already dug it.
And then this has been a few years now, and I'm assuming you still kind of have it going. The band, it was funny because when I first started kind of getting on the road, it was probably like 2008, 2009, and I think I've got my dates right, but like whenever people started outside of my region started kind of know my name a little bit, they would kept bringing up Juno What all the time. They're like, have you heard Juno What though? Have you heard Juno What? I'm like, who is this band I keep hearing about, And then of course I did, found out, and it was obviously, your project. And so tell me a little bit. I mean, first off, I guess the first question is, that band still exist? And then secondly, tell me like how that band kind of came to be.
I guess the band still exists. We haven't played since before the pandemic, so it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
I definitely have people, interested in having us play again. It's been a couple of different iterations of the band, but the very first band started in 2008.
Okay, I'm
and it
pretty
was
close on my dates. Yeah, okay.
And it was Dominic Lally from Big Gigantic on saxophone.
Oh,
and it was
nice.
just us.
Got it.
And I was programming the bass lines into the computer, and Dave was actually back there playing drums and changing the computer using some drum pad stuff.
Yeah.
I'm doing talk box for every song.
So just a trio then initially, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Tom played keyboards and saxophone.
Oh, nice.
But that only lasted about a year, because that's the year that he started Big Gigantic. And I don't know if you know them, but
yeah, of course.
They sell out stadiums.
Right.
They're a giant band.
Yeah.
And so he, after about a year, was like, "Hey man, I'm real busy with this awesome project I'm doing. So
right, of course.
I can't do, Juno What anymore." And I'm like, "Dude, I get it."
Yeah.
And so that's when I got this guy named Steve Swatkins to come and play with me. He's from Portland.
Okay.
And I knew him through some other friends, and he's the only other keyboard player I've ever been friends with that also does like clavinet stuff and can do talk box, bass and guitar and all the stuff. So we're real kindred spirits in that way. So we were in that band with Dave for a couple of years.
Okay. And was that the lineup up until the pandemic, basically?
We got a different drummer after a while. Dave got sick of being on the road so much between all the projects, the Motet, Juno What, and everything else.
Yeah.
He just had to slow it down. And so I got a different drummer, this guy, Tyrone Hendricks, who used to play with Prince. And
nice.
Like Stevie Wonder and stuff. He lives up in Portland.
Wow.
Another one of those amazing musicians who lives up in Portland.
Now, so that band you toured with, I mean, a decent amount too, right? Did you know what?
We did. We went all over the United States.
Oh, wow. And just did it between Motet. Well, you must have been just on the road, just non-frickin' stop then between.
I really was.
Yeah, I bet.
I really was.
Yeah. Wow. Well, let's lead this. Let's kind of, we'll kind of start winding down towards the end, and that'll lead me kind of to my question. And this question has, evolved so much. It's evolving as we speak right now. Like you would ask me a couple weeks ago, I'd have a different question for you even now. But where do you think, in terms of live music, between your own personal experiences, what's going on now, your gut, talking to other friends in the industry? I mean, do you think, like, let's not talk about directly right now, but let's say, is 2022 just going to be 2019 all over again, you think? Or you think we still a ways from that? Or, what's your gut on that?
It's hard to say, when I did that gig with you,
right,
I don't know, 3 weeks ago or whatever that was.
Right.
It started to look like things were on the up. Like we were like, okay,
That's what yeah,
cool.
exactly. It's amazing. That was been 3 weeks and it seems like almost like a year ago compared
That's
to what's
right.
going
Like,
on. You know what I mean?
you know, I still was going into the Starbucks most of the time or into the grocery store, put my mask on,
Right.
as you were back
Right.
then. I guess I didn't when we went to the Starbucks together, but I was
Yep.
trying to keep it cool. And
Right.
now I definitely am. Now
Right.
everywhere I go.
Yeah.
But they just actually or like this week they're mandating it in Colorado. So like,
Really? Well, all indoor places?
yes.
Okay, we haven't got there in Ohio yet because, you know, obviously Colorado's a little bit more progressive than Ohio is, but I think it's, you know, who knows by next week it may change. We'll see. Yeah.
I think maybe California, there's a few states that are the same.
Right.
Too.
Right.
And I mean, I guess it's for the best, but it's only because of all the unvaccinated people, you know.
Yeah.
And everybody would have got vaccinated. Like there still would be the variant. It just wouldn't be killing so many people, making so many people sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely have a lot of friends now, you know, at least a half dozen friends who got vaccinated, never had the virus, and then got it after they were vaccinated.
Yeah.
So I saw that picture up. Did you see that picture of Lollapalooza?
Yeah, I did.
Those pictures, it's like, who knows what's going to happen if people are being like that?
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
Because
and
I
I have a lot of, you know, friends in the industry that were involved with that. So, and I'm excited, you know, and it was an exciting time. And it's just I guess the big canary in the coal mine's going to be, I think it's going to be Jazz Fest because it's October. Was it the first or second week in October? It's in
Yes.
New Orleans, which is getting obviously hit pretty hard right now. I mean, hopefully in a couple months things will, you know, be in better shape, but besides the amount of people at the festival itself, as we know, all the late night stuff that happens there too, and you're talking from people coming from all different parts of the country too. So,
Well, the thing about Jazz Fest too is there's just like New Orleans, you know, already it's just such a drinking place.
right.
You know what I mean? And so, from experience, from the beginning of some of my very first gigs back, like during the pandemic when they were only letting 50 people in or whatever.
Yeah.
I would have a couple of cocktails, and then a couple of cocktails in, all of a sudden I realize I care just a little bit less about what's happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
And think about what Jazz Fest is going to be like. You've done those gigs 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
You start at some gig or something.
Yeah.
By 4 in the morning, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
And I just think it's going to be like, whatever. That's what I think. And I feel like as a musician, I'm probably going to be like wearing my mask, sitting backstage, and like maybe having a little less fun than I would normally have because I'm just afraid that everybody's just laughing and yelling like variant all over me. You know what I mean?
Right. And
you know, I'm not a germaphobe or anything, but I just like, come on, everybody's getting sick.
Right. I know. One plus, you know, and it's weird because October, you know, you were just saying how we just played together 3 weeks ago, and it's like it feels like a year ago. I mean, October is going to seem like 5 years from now, you know, depending on what happens between now and then. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still always a half glass full guy. So I'm still ultimately hopeful about everything. I think, you know, hopefully this will, you know, I don't think we're ever going to be normal again, but what is normal? You know what I mean? I mean, I think there's some cool, you know, I had on the show a few weeks ago, I had, one of the keyboard, actually another keyboard player, Dave Katz, who's from the band Acoustic Hookah. I don't know if you know them, but they're pretty big around this area. They have a big thing called Hookahville every year. And he said, you know, they did a Hookahville, I guess it was early September. And he was saying, you know, they did the pod thing and all that kind of stuff. And he said, you know, we're going to keep, even when things get totally normal, we're going to keep doing the pod thing. It's almost kind of like people liked having that little area. So it's almost like a VIP, you know, almost like buying a box seat at a football game or something like that. So I think there's going to be some things that come out of this that, you know, might carry forward and hopefully more of a positive way, you know?
I definitely think that also, besides that if people continue, like it looks like it's going towards, you're going to have to show you're vaccinated in order to get into the shows.
Right.
I know that a lot of our Motet shows are about to be like that coming up.
Okay, good. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
And you're going to have to wear a mask. So it's going to be like double, you know, like, and even just because you're vaccinated, you still got to wear a mask.
Sure.
The way I look at it, is it a pain in the ass? Yeah, it sucks. Nobody likes it, but it's like, if you're given the option, you don't get to go to any shows, or you have to go to a show and jump through these 2 hoops. I feel like if you're a real music fan, you're going to jump through the hoops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
I mean, what is it really about? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, everybody's like, well, I want my freedoms. Well, we all have a certain amount of freedom, but we still all have to follow the rules. You have to go the speed limit. You know, you can't break certain laws. You can't fire in a movie theater. You can't.
Right.
You gotta wear a mask. I don't know. It's just like common sense stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's end with this, Joey. Besides, let's say for the next 4 to 6 months on your docket. So obviously you're going to be going out and doing dates with the Motet, right? You got a bunch of dates coming up, right? With that.
Yeah, but no like real tours. Just sort of like some weekends here and there, because it's mostly like festival season.
Festival stuff, outside stuff. Hopefully, most of it.
Yeah, almost all of it actually. So that's great.
Oh, good.
And then in October, I am doing a few gigs during Jazz Fest. And we're doing Brooklyn Comes Alive.
Oh, right. And that's obviously in New York City. Well, in Brooklyn, obviously.
That's right, in Brooklyn.
Right.
So we'll see if all that happens. I mean, I hope it does.
Sure. And then what about anything on the recording side? Any projects in the work, whether it be Motet, Juno, what, or even some of your solo stuff. One thing I want to mention too is we've been talked about. You and I both have done a lot of work with Color Red, a label out of Colorado, and you had with Joey Porter Trio, right? Isn't that what you called it there too as well? Which I heard the first time a couple weeks ago, and Michelangelo's. Did he play drums on that? Right?
Yeah, it's Michelangelo and Garrett Singers.
Right, and that's just fantastic stuff, man. Just like anybody watching the show, if you haven't heard it yet, just pop over to Color Red or Spotify or wherever you listen to music, and it's some great stuff. So, I mean, any stuff like that or any other things you got on the pipeline?
I'm producing the new Motet record, and we've recorded all the instruments, and so we're over the next few months we'll be getting all the vocals done. We're gonna have different guest vocals for each song.
Oh, nice!
And so I'll be doing that remotely from in Colorado. So we'll see.
Wow! And you're producing it too, huh?
Yeah, I produced the last record. I produced this one. I feel like we enjoy having a guy in our band, in-house do it,
Yeah.
Because I think that's because more than a normal producer, I check in with everybody. I'm like, I'm not going to make an executive decision.
Right.
Like, if anybody hates it, I'm not going to keep it.
Right.
And a producer is going to be like, look, you're paying me the big bucks because I know what's up. He might make an executive decision. You know what I mean? Sure.
Right. I got it.
I think they like it because we can all work together. It's more like a democracy.
Totally. And then I mean, you've been doing a little producing here and there. I mean, besides even outside of the Motet, right? I mean, I know you did some stuff with Joe Marcinek. You produced some of his stuff. I mean, is that something, is that a part of your, career that you want to, have more focus on as you move forward, being a producer?
Absolutely. Especially as I get older, and I want to start probably touring around less and less.
Yeah.
I find it really rewarding, because when you produce an album, it's there forever. It's not like just when you get done playing a gig. It's
right.
Like this thing that's a carved stone forever.
Yeah.
And I love that. I feel like, especially if you're looking for a certain sound, then I can really make your record sound good.
Yeah. Definitely. That's great.
I don't know if I'm like one of those producers who can do anything you want. I can make it sound this one way.
Right. I hear you. Well, I mean, that's what you get hired. You get hired for that. People want that thing, and and they're like, okay, I hire this guy for that thing. So that's great. Well, man, I can't thank you so much for being on the show. Just it was great playing with you a few weeks ago. I'm super excited. I'm getting you to doing a new single I'm working on, so I'm super excited about that. And it's fun watching your journey, and like I told you, even back in Columbus, it's you're one of the real ones with the funk, and there's a lot of people that word gets thrown around more and more lately, and it's there's a smaller handful of people that really get it, and you're one of those people. So it's been really great to actually connect with you in the way we have, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Come from you. That's a big compliment. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no doubt, definitely, for real. All right, brother. Well, stay safe out there. Wear your mask. Get a cool sparkly one or something or an orange. You'd want an orange one probably for you.
That's
right?
it.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's right. All right. Well, stay in touch. Thanks for being on the show, and we'll catch you soon here, Joey. Thank you, Joey Porter on the Motet. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks.